right. Welcome to the No Dick Pics podcast. I'm Christina.
I'm Max.
Welcome, Scott. Scott is the host of the Hope I Don't Fuck This Up podcast. So
your spiritual brethren.
we are.
We get blocked in so many areas.
Right? Neither of us can post our podcast names in groups on Facebook.
So. That's what the asterisk is for. I put the little asterisk in there.
See, we didn't do that.
Oh, no. I right when I started, I was like, I know I'm going to have a problem. So
yeah.
I put a little asterisk. No, hope I don't F this up. Became my backup.
That's smart.
Well, No D Pics.
Yeah.
Probably still out there for you.
That is our Instagram because Instagram wouldn't let us do it.
Yeah. So. Oh, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your show.
So I co-host with my co-host Lily a show called Hope I Don't Fuck This Up. I am a single dad. She is a single mom. And we talk about all the ways in which we are trying not to massively screw up our children. I like to say that it's a show for single parents and those who feel like one, because it turns out that there are plenty of married people, especially moms, that feel like single parents a lot of the time. And so they, a lot of what we say speaks to that too, but we cover the gamut. We talk about dating, which, we'll go through that horror show, I guess, here today. You guys cover that all the time. We talk about, raising our kids, co-parenting, the types of style of parenting that happens when you're a single parent. Oftentimes you feel negligent because you only have so much time. We have guests on. We had a great friend of mine who is a single parent. Her name is Christina McGee, and she's a Peloton instructor. And we went over all of the ways in which she tries to juggle her life, being a single working mom. So we talk about that, and then we just try to have fun with it. I mean, we start off almost every episode with a parenting fail of the week, where we try to forgive ourselves for a way we fucked up that week. And that has been very cathartic. I think, the thing that's best for me, and I will let you ask questions, but as a podcast host, I'm used to just talking.
Go for it.
But the thing for me, it's like being honest about this stuff, being forthright about how hard it is and the ways we screw up and how it's not the end of the world. We're just all fronting all the time. We're all trying to pretend like we got this, and we don't really got this. And you were telling me before we started how you're in single parent group, and that's such a great way to like talk to each other. I'm not in one, so this is my single parent group. Me and Lily are in this little single parent group, trying to make each other feel better.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've both. Okay, Max doesn't listen to our podcast, and he's listened to a few of yours.
I listened to the first. I think I did it backwards. I grabbed like the dating one, so I think it was like one of the ones in early February about the dating apps, because I love everyone's just perception of that, and I agreed with like so many things when you guys talked about when you first start dating, you're like, oh, maybe non-parents, and then you realize right away like I have to date another parent because it's just not going to work. Yeah. And then I listened to the very first episode, and it was really good. So I kind of see myself in both of you guys, because I have twins, but they're a lot younger. So I have 12-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. Some days you're just like some days you just have to be like, all right, I just need to rewind and kind of start over. And I always tell my kid, it's a new day. And we kind of try, sometimes when he has a bad day, that's all you can really do. That's one of the things we're trying to do. We're doing, obviously our podcast is more about dating, but this season we want to do more about parenting and what it's like and just living today with relationships, kids, all that. And it's just, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
So you're direct competitors is what you're telling me. That's fine. That's fine.
You're East Coast. We're like Midwest.
Yeah, I know. I'm very East Coast. No, but it's so true that it's like having to date another parent. It's like I tried dating women that were not single parents, never been parents, and it is such a different vibe, and they just don't understand. You know what I mean? Like they don't get what your responsibilities
I love hearing like, oh no, I have nieces and nephews. No.
I heard so often.
Yeah.
I hear the niece and nephew thing. Yep. So I'm like, you hand your children off. You have no responsibility.
Right.
Like don't even, so, and I get I don't get angry, but I get frustrated, and you can't have a good relationship when there's a kernel of frustration inside you.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, it took me a little bit, probably I'm a slow learner. So it took me a little while because, there are a lot of very attractive women that don't have kids. And so, that's how I'm just a normal guy. And then I
Right.
realized, you know what, that's not enough. Hot is not enough.
Yeah.
They also need to, they need other things.
I mean, I went on a date with a guy who didn't have kids. I only dated one guy who didn't have kids. And the judgment he had about parents, I'm like, this isn't going to work. I'm like,
we
I can't.
just recorded an episode on judgment that's going to come out in a couple of weeks. And it's just the amount of judgment we get. And I'm sure you guys get this too. And, especially Max, I'd be interested to know what you think. Cause it's like, as a single dad, we get treated different for better and for worse, for better, because I don't know, Christina's probably drives you nuts, but like, we're winners if we do like the simplest thing. And it's like, I picked him up at school. Ooh, a dad did that.
Yeah.
But then there is just this sense that like you don't know how to handle certain things that I've run into because I'm a guy, and apparently guys don't know how to handle basic child rearing.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's true. I did a lot with the kids anyway. So, but then now, like you said, you do a few things, and when I tell people at work, like some of my schedules begin because I have the custody from like Sunday night to Wednesday morning. So like my Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays are just insane. Yeah. She sees it where it's just like I'm an Uber, like, and I'm lucky I get home.
That's what I used to call them.
How old are your kids?
12.
Oh, yeah, my son's 11. Yeah.
Mine are adults, so I really don't have this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I am a single parent, but like I was married the entire time that they were kids. So
how
it's been a whole
old are
different
adults?
Thing. My daughter is 25 and my son is 23.
Oh, so they're like they're adults, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But it's been the whole divorce situation is so different because my kids were so much older. You'd think it would be easier, and it was not.
Because Lily was saying the same thing because her kids were like teenagers, and it's like that they feel they can judge you more now than my son doesn't judge. It's almost all he's ever known. We got separated when he was 4, but like teenagers, I mean, they're assholes anyway, and now they get another way to hate you, another reason to hate you.
Yeah. So I feel like it's just because they grew up their whole life with their parents married, and so now that we're not, I think they're like, what? And so, I don't know if you knew this. Me and Max are dating.
You are dating?
We're together.
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah. Okay.
It started off, we were dating. It started off, we did a podcast. Then like around the summer, I decided, I need a little break. So we broke up, and then kind of like just, stayed in contact. And then after the summer, we're like, hey, let's try this again,
Oh man.
Kind of like broke up and then hung out more.
Well, I mean, I find that they often say that like breaking up is that way to help you kind of redefine your priorities. Like it is not a bad thing. Most people I know that have been together a long time had a breakup at some point in their relationship.
So we got it out of the way early.
I know.
I just realized, and you realize too, it's like, holy shit, like I had something really good in front of me, and then you go back out to the dating pool and just like, oh, jeez.
Oh, man. So awful. And it's funny, for every bad story, I have my girlfriend who I've been dating about 1.5 years now. Her stories are so much worse. And I feel so bad because it's like, I like having worse stories than her. And I just don't like that all her stories blow mine out of the water. I'll tell like some kind of story. I'm like, isn't that awful? And she'll be like, well, I ended up, jumping out of a car that was going down the freeway to get out of, always one-upping me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, God.
That's why we created this show, because we wanted people to realize, like, it's just not you. It's everybody. Just like you guys, you have a male and female perspective. I think that's so important because you just don't realize, and even some of the things we talked about, like just how a guy thinks compared to like a female. Like we talked about, like after you sleep together, and like what the female's thinking. And like I remember, because she was shocked. It's like, what were you thinking? I'm thinking like, okay, what's in the fridge and what's on TV? When she gets out of here, it's just like, just because you have just a different
He's like, when's she gonna leave?
Well, oh God, I remember the first time I hooked up with my ex-wife back in the day, way too long ago. I remember, fell asleep on my arm, and I wanted to leave. And all I wanted to do was leave, but my arm was trapped. I couldn't even, and you know how you don't want to like cause too much ruckus the first time, like, you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I, and I was in my 20s. I don't know what the hell to do. And I felt like a bear that wanted to gnaw off his arm just so that I could get out of there. Like it was just, I was just trapped. You need time to process like this idea, I know I do. Like I need to be able to go back to my space and, process the fact, that I just hooked up with a hottie and go me. And I don't want to feel it when my arm is falling asleep.
Right.
And then for like the dating too, like when we, before I was married, there wasn't apps or anything. You barely had a phone, and now it's everything. And I remember, and that's just such a cultural shock. Like, wait, no one goes and hangs out. Like, no one. Like who goes to the bars? Like, oh, that's what the 20-year-olds do. But no one really like organically meets anymore, and it's crazy.
No, it's it's funny. I don't think it's 100% true. Like I met people when I was doing something I really liked. Like I started a stand-up comedy class and I met I met like a woman or two in the class, and we just had, we didn't end up going anywhere, but still it was like meeting somebody while you're doing something you love.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so, I mean, that's the advice I put out there all the time when, someone who doesn't know any better asks me for advice. I say like, go out and do something you love, because these apps aren't built around that. Like they say shared interest and they say hobbies, but no one's really honest about that. Or like I would never put stand-up comedy up on my thing, because then I feel like, oh, right, well, nobody's going to want to
be funny.
Well, that's what you did. Like, be funny. I'm like, you don't want me to be funny, because the things I'm going to talk about are you, and you're in front of me, and that's a bad idea. But like, but if you're going out and you're doing something you love, and then there's no pressure to make it a date. Instead, it's just, hey, let's both experience a shared thing we like. So that I think is still possible, but the apps feel, it's like, it's so gamified. It just feels like
they're
fun.
So toxic.
But it's like you're flipping through hot people.
Yeah.
Like, and that's fun. You're like, wow, this hot person, maybe. And then you meet them and realize their picture was from 15 years ago, and, including mine. And you're like, that's a bad, this isn't going to be what I thought it was. I mean, God, I had so many bad dates off of the apps. I mean,
well, tell us about a few.
Oh God, you want to feel better about yourself, people out there? Well, let's see. I dated this one woman. So I met her on the app, and then we did a phone call. And because, I have kind of these rules that I immediately break about how much time and effort you want to put into talking to somebody before you meet them. And you can get sucked into texting and sucked into all this stuff. And I try to avoid that. But I was like, okay, I'll do a phone call. Woman I'd never met before. And I'm just have a phone call, just try to get to know her. And about, I'd say a half an hour into the phone call, she starts masturbating. Half hour into this phone call. And I'm like, what is happening? Like I maybe think I'm some kind of sex god. I am not. I think I was talking about Sean Hannity or something. Like I was not.
Were you talking about something like,
no,
okay.
No, she just turned out to be like, incredibly oversexed. And I don't want to judge. It's not over. She was very sexual. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'll go on a date with her, because even though I'm very uncomfortable about this, still, that would be nice to, someone who's not weird about sex. And she then on our first date told me she was submissive, and she wanted to be tied up and ordered around.
On the first date?
On the first date, she told me.
Okay.
Listed all the stuff. We're at like a nice little restaurant, and she's listing all this, and I'm like, are people listening to us talk about how she wants to get tied up? Like,
oh yeah,
there's somebody next door being like, I hit the freaking jackpot, and they're pretending to talk to each other and just listening to bondage lady. She texted me a picture of like someone like trussed up and be like, this is what I like. And part of me was like, okay, it's nice that someone's upfront about their kinks, but the first date, it was
a lot.
And it was also, I don't think I'm the right guy to date a submissive. I just don't think I'm enough of an asshole to be able to pull it off. Like, I just can't, I'd be too busy asking her like, oh, how is this? Is that night not too tight? Or I'd make jokes and be like, I only know square knots, or like, wow, thank God I took sailing school. Like just stuff that would make her knock her out.
Right.
So, after that one date, it was like, oh, yeah, this ain't going to work. I don't think I can be, I can't be the what is that horrible horrible movie with about bondage.
Oh, Pulp Fiction.
No,
Or no?
Oh no, no,
Oh
that's a
no.
completely different kind
no,
of bondage. I'm
no,
not
no,
saying
no.
she
Like
she's not
Yeah.
the
50 Shades of
gimp.
Grey.
50
Oh,
Shades of
yeah.
Grey. Wow.
Max.
Male
Yeah.
female brain right there. Christina got 50 Shades of Grey. You're like, oh, are you talking about the gimp?
Whenever
Are you-
whenever I hear bondage, I just think of Pulp Fiction. I know it's like complete. Yeah, that's when
yeah,
I.
no, nobody was getting pegged. It was
Yeah.
just but yeah, it was a very weird.
I learned that term about a year ago, and it was very
Yeah.
interesting. I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah. And anyway, that was, I mean, it was a very odd, but I found that people are a lot more upfront, and I'm way over 40. And so like, I find people are a lot more upfront about their kinks, I guess. I don't know if you guys have seen that,
Yes.
but yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
for
like,
sure.
any woman has seen it. And I'm not prepared because I was married for 12 years and like, you know, I'm not prepared
I
for
get
this
it.
world.
I was
where
married for
people-
23.
Oh, I can't
I
imagine.
married
like,
my
what do
high
you
school
do?
sweetheart.
Oh, Jesus. You
And so
poor
I
lady.
didn't date. I did in high school. Like for like a week or two, I'd have a boyfriend in high school, and then I met my ex-husband and then married him.
Wait,
So I didn't know
how
what I
many
was
people,
doing.
How many people have you dated before Max?
I dated, well, I talked to a bunch, but I dated like I called like two, my boyfriend.
Okay.
Three. Yeah. I forgot about
Yeah,
Joe
Max,
for a
I'm
second.
sorry. You don't want to be the first one after the marriage.
oh no, I
Definitely
know."
wasn't. No.
'Cause
Nobody
the
wants
first one,
that.
you just dive in. You're just like, well, you know, because most of the time, that's what I talk about. You're coming off a marriage, so usually the last few years are not really, you know, very nice. You know, like usually like no sex or close to none, and then so the first time you're just like, I just want to get laid. Like we talked
Oh.
about, it's like I just want to get laid. You know.
The
Like,
first
this
guy
is
I
what an
dated,
orgasm is. I
Yeah.
forgot about it. Yeah.
first guy I dated told me he loved me in 3 days. So,
Oh.
but he broke up with me in 8. So, yeah.
You know, that happened to my girlfriend too. She started dating somebody and he moved in or tried to move in like 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, you let this happen. But she doesn't like it when I say it. But it's like, it's interesting because I think that you accept it. Like you aren't jaded enough
No,
to kind of know
I
what
didn't
bullshit
know.
that is.
I didn't know what love bombing was.
Oh.
So I had no idea. I'm like, this guy's in love with me. I'm like, this is so easy. Why do people complain about dating? No. I learned my lesson very quickly.
You must get that because I remember my girlfriend got that a lot too. It's this like the love bombing of just how quickly guys go to that.
Yes.
Like, I don't even
so fast.
And
That's
the matches,
crazy to
like
me.
they get like they go on apps and they have hundreds and hundreds of matches. Like if I get 3, I'm like I'm having an awesome day. You know?
No, I mean, I think Bumble, like I would get the people that would write me back. Where you'd have your list of people that you hope would write you back, and they're never the ones that write you back.
Right.
You have your A and B and C tier, and the C tier would always write me back, and A tier would never write me back, and then B would be in the middle, and then you'd meet someone in the B tier and realize, oh wow, you look so much better than your picture, or you come to life when you're in in a person's presence versus a photo, and you realize how stupid it is that you're A, B, and C'ing people that you know nothing about. But that's how apps make your brain work, right? That's how they mess you up. Not that I'm bitter.
It makes it a game.
Like,
I
didn't
know.
you read my profile? Like, no. Like, no one else, you know. I looked at your picture. I was like, oh, I like it, you know.
Oh, I always read the profile.
Max did not.
I learned that. Well, we all know how superficial Max is. I'm learning that.
Yeah.
But I always read the profile because then how are you going to like say something when you reach out that's like, shows that you read the profile? Like you got
Right.
Yeah.
But that
I
makes
should've
wooing
quizzed him.
into a game. Yeah. Oh, you should have. You have messed up. Right? Christina and I are
I
going to
know.
figure this out, Max. We are going to make
Yeah.
sure that she approaches this the right way because I think
Yeah.
you've been skating by on
No,
charm.
he has for sure.
Yeah.
He knows. Yeah, that's a wild story though.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And that's the thing.
yeah.
There's like apps for that.
Yeah.
There's apps where you can seek out people with similar kinks and interest. So it's weird. It's like I've heard it before. People just go onto normal apps and they're completely like off the wall and like looking for a very specific thing. And I'm like, why don't you go on an app that makes it easier to find that rather than
I
just
don't
like
think they always like the people that respond to that stuff.
maybe.
Maybe.
or
I
they
mean,
want to
you know
turn
what? Total guess.
a
I don't
normal.
actually know. I don't actually know. But I also think that you just, like, this woman was a single mom, and
Hmm.
she, you know, had been dating now for like 5 years, 6 years. And, you know, when you get to like 4 or 5 years, it's like, you'll do anything. You'll try anything. You know, all these like, you know, all these standards you had, um, you start to get knocked down just because you, you realize that you don't know what you're doing. Like, it's part of what apps do is it forces you to like know what you're doing when you don't know what you're doing. You know,
Hmm.
like, I don't know what I actually want. Like, you know, with
Neither
my
But you
did
say
girlfriend.
that,
neither
but
did
if you say
Max.
that, yeah, if you say that, then they're like, oh,
Oh,
he has
they
no
hate
idea.
that.
Yeah.
People hate
Hmm.
that. People, when it's like, they want you to be ready for commitment. You know, everyone's like, are you ready for a long-term relationship? And I'm like, well, I guess right now I am, because otherwise, you know, you're not interested in talking to me. I'm always interested in a long-term
Right.
relationship. That's not knocked off the table. I was married, but maybe not tomorrow. Does it
Right.
have to be tomorrow?
I
It's
would have to say right
interesting.
away, like no. I would have to say no kids, and I would always say no kids, and I don't want to get married again. And so then they were like, okay, and then like a couple weeks in the conversation, so is that no kids thing still like? That's that? I'm like, what do you think I was like taught? Like no kids means no kids, and so yeah,
Yeah.
that gets interesting too.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's
So
all flooding back.
we had guests on last year who met on Bumble, and they had like a love story and they got married. And the reason they met was because my friend Rachel went to a dating coach, and she was only looking for people who had long-term relationship in their profile. She was
Hmm.
not considering anyone with anything else. And her therapist is like, or not her therapist, her, I think it was a dating coach, was like, maybe you should try people who are open to like short term or casual or whatever, because at least they're being honest.
Yep.
So those people are being honest, and you know everyone's going to put long term. That doesn't mean that that's what they want. Every
I don't
single
think I
guy I've
ever
dated
did.
has yours said long term.
Did it really?
Yes.
Called out.
No.
Every single guy I've dated, including you, put long term in their profile,
Wow, I'm
and
shocked by that.
none of them, except for Max, because it has turned a year's long term, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Lear is long.
But it's turned into that. But yeah, the others definitely weren't long term. Definitely.
I also think that that's just a weird thing to like, because it's so person dependent.
Yeah.
Like,
And like,
I am,
what do you define as a, like, no, I'm only looking for short term. So at 3 weeks, I'm good. Bye. You
I mean,
know, like, how does that work?
that's what, you know, prostitutes are for. If you want short term, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the one issue I have with long term is the weight that it puts on what shouldn't be weighty. Like,
Yeah.
your first 6 months or whatever, they shouldn't be weighty. Like, you were
Hmm.
married, you went through the weighty part. You deserve to have fun. Like, you deserve to like learn about yourself and just play around. And, you know, to have all this expectation of, well, you got to be ready to settle down. I'm like, well, if you're the right person, I will settle down. If you are
Hmm.
not not the right person, that doesn't mean that this is a waste of your time or mine. Like, I don't know. I mean, it just, I will admit that like for the first year and a half or 2 years, I wasn't ready to be in any kind of like really long-term relationship. And it was a little disingenuous of me to say that I was. And so I was one of those people you should have avoided when you were, you know,
But I think most people aren't ready. I mean,
yeah.
and I'm very civil with like my ex-wife, and our family still get together. And I thought, oh, I'm fine. And my therapist was like, even though like it was very civil and you guys didn't fight, it's still a life changing event. And
Yeah.
I went through certain stages. Like the first year, okay, I wasn't ready. Then I thought I was ready, and then I was like, I didn't want to be alone, so I was just being in
Yeah.
relationships just to be in a relationship, so you wouldn't be alone. And then finally, I realized like, wait, I got to step back from this. Like, I would rather be alone than have to deal with some of this stuff. And so you just kind of like almost you have that kind of come to Jesus moment, eventually when you're doing it, and like, okay, now I know what I want or what I'm looking for and stuff, and right away, like if it's
Did
not in
you
the
know what you
cards.
want? Just curious.
Not ultimately, like long term wise, but yeah. But you know what
What
type
an
of person you want to
anchor.
be with, not one that after my divorce, because all my relationships were like 3 months, and I'm just like, oh my god, maybe that's like it's like maybe it's me. Maybe I just get bored after 3 months. I'm like, okay.
We
So
made it to 5 before he dumped me.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Two
It
extra
was.
whole months.
Yeah.
I love the dynamic of this show where it's like you talk about dating, but everything is like has stakes because you say the wrong thing, you're going to remember it. You know, you talk about
Everything's recorded too. That's
it's
my
all
favorite part about the
recorded.
show.
You're like, you know, if Max had said, you know what, I'd like to try pegging, that could completely change your dynamic. Like
and I have it on record.
you have it on record, and you're like, you know what, I don't get hurt. Let's
We'll
do
have to
this.
go back to that one.
but yeah, what an interesting dynamic. Because it's what funny dynamic I have is that my ex-wife listens to my show,
Does she?
and I know because if I say something that she feels I shouldn't have said, she will let me know.
Yes. I've experienced that as well.
Yeah, and that's a weird feeling. And so I keep getting like people keep getting mad at me for the things that I say because I believe in being as honest as you can be. Otherwise,
same.
people will just sniff out if you're inauthentic. You just become boring.
Yeah.
And so like I'm honest about all of this stuff, and then one by one, everyone in my life gets mad at me. Like I called my mom a mob boss and she got mad at me. And then I said something about my cousin, who's a house husband, and they got mad at me. And my ex kept getting mad. My girlfriend got mad at me for something I said that I thought was really nice. I thought I said this really nice thing to her and she got so mad at me about it. And everybody is angry when you're honest. So I can't believe you guys are able to be honest to each other, to your face.
I
That's
mean,
how
even
we've always been.
our last episode, she actually, I mean, she wasn't angry at me, but she just got,
I was a little bit.
She was upset about like talking about a previous relationship and stuff. But I mean, you know, you see it, you know. So
well, it's because that's how we started our show, because we were very newly dated when we started the show. It was actually a line he was using on me. He was like, hey, I've always wanted to do a podcast about dating. And I'm like, listen,
you're smooth.
I can make this happen.
I always wanted to do it, but I mean, the way I am, I'm just not going to go, I'm not going to do it. It's just like, oh, I'll get all the equipment and be like, maybe not.
Yeah. And then he met me and I'm like, oh no, you don't say you were going to do something. We're going to do it. So we started off, you know, we were still very new, started dating. We weren't that serious. So we're talking about all our exes and like all these experiences. And it didn't bother me at all because like, we weren't that serious.
Yeah.
We were just like very new to dating. Now we're in a much different place. And so when I hear the stories about these women, I'm like, or his chemistry with them, I'm like, oh my God.
The look, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. Like I'm sure my girlfriend will listen to this episode and then she will come at me about Bondage Lady and she'll be like, you didn't say that, because I didn't tell her in that first half an hour. That's not something you bring up with your girlfriend. Guess what happened on a date in the first half an hour?
Max does.
I go to Mexico on a third date, so don't worry about it.
You went to Mexico on a third date?
Yeah, it was like around my birthday, and I was like, I always wanted to go. She's like, we should go. I was like, all right.
He had known her for 2 weeks.
Is that why you're missing one of your kidneys? Did she lure you down there?
Are you? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry. I am not crossing into a new country with someone until I have seen their credit history and their criminal history. I do not trust.
Well, my cousin, like, she's like, here, I'm gonna locate you just to make sure, you know,
Very
you don't
smart.
get kidnapped and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going down to Mexico unless I need a hostage. I'm like, my brother is going to hang out with your sister until I come back. Like, that's what's going to happen.
I was going to ask, how did you meet your current girlfriend?
So it was on Bumble. So I broke every rule. So my rules were, you know, I don't like to text a lot because the first person one of the first people that I really met on one of these apps, she was a huge texter and we texted for like 2 weeks. Cause you know, as you know, being a single parent, it's like, you have no time. I'm primary caregiver. So I hardly have any time. So it takes forever for me to set up a date. And so for 2 weeks, we're texting back and forth and back and forth. I'm like, this person's amazing. And then I meet her and all of her personality is through her phone. Like none of it is in person. Like she's like Superman on the phone, but she's Clark Kent when you know, at the dinner table. And so there was just nothing there. And then, but I wasted so much emotional energy and I got so excited. So I'm like, I just can't do that anymore. And so I try to keep it to a minimum. But my girlfriend, when we first met on Bumble, she is just a texting vomiter and she's hilarious on text. So I got sucked into this comedy repartee we're doing. And then finally, by the time, you know, I met her, I think we had texted over, she sent me the number. I think it was over 4,000 texts
Oh my
before we
gosh.
met. No, she like sent me the number of how many texts we had done. That's how much. And that's her, but I rose to the occasion. And she refused to do a phone call with me. And I'm like, why won't you do a phone call? And
That's
she's
interesting.
German. Well, she's German and she has she has an accent. She doesn't love her voice. And so she didn't want me to hear her before, we met, but I forced her to do a voice note for me just so that I knew she wasn't a man. And so I made her say, pick a peck of Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Plus I wanted to see if she could do it with a German accent. And so she said that to me and she couldn't do it. She totally messed it up.
Oh.
And then we sent photos to each other. And if you've heard a previous one of those episodes, I probably talked about it. So you probably heard
Yeah,
it.
that was fun.
She cried when she saw my photo. So that was great. And
you talked about no man should be like the selfie thing is so.
No man, no one over 40.
I can't smile. My selfies all look alike and they look like I'm like angry. I'm like,
Oh,
I can't help it. I can't like.
I'm the worst selfie taker. Like I just take crappy photos in general, and she's a photographer, so not a good one too. And so she cried when she saw the photo. It was all. So when we finally met, it was like this big, breath of relief where it's just like, oh, we're both normal. We both look fine. Like she looks great. I look acceptable. Like, she wasn't afraid to eat in front of me, like all these little things. And, she was actually spoke a mile a minute. I thought that maybe she would barely talk because she didn't like to, didn't want to talk on the phone, but she has no problem talking. And it was just nice and natural. And we met and then we went away for another 2 weeks or something because I couldn't find time. And so it was a lot of those trying to pick our moments. And she broke every rule with me the way I broke every rule with her. Cause it was like, her rule was, our weekends have to match up, but I have primary custody, so I don't have weekends really.
Right.
So I have to when getting together takes a little bit of work for me. I think she has all these she had so many rules. She had all these other rules that she ended up breaking. I think I had to be I had to be very tall, and I'm not, she's 5'9" and I'm 5'10" 3/4. So she calls me
That's
tiny.
a big thing she talks about it. Like I'm 6'1", but I don't consider myself tall because I always was the middle friend. I had tall friends and short friends, but I was always stuck in the middle. So yeah, the height thing is a huge thing.
I'm 5'2", so 6'1" is tall.
So, oh my God, there are so many women out there that are pissed at you right now, stealing the tall guys from
I know. Them. They hate it. They're like, leave the tall men to the tall women. I'm like, no.
Yeah, you're like, no, I have a step ladder. I'm fine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm tall, I have beard, and I have tattoos, so everyone's like,
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I'm saying that if you're going to Mexico, you would be the one I'm afraid of.
We had a dating story and about like a guy like completely lied about his height, and I never understood that. Like an inch or two, but it's like
you've had more than one. People
guys lie about their height all the
time. You can't come back from that. Like if you're like 5'10" or 5'11" and you say you're 6 feet, that's fine. But I mean, if you're I don't know what goes through these guys.
The guy said he was 5'7" and he was like 5 foot. Like she couldn't see him over a car.
Poor guys, though. I'm like,
yeah, but be honest about it,
Well, yeah, but when you're honest about it, I get it. Because when you're honest about it, you don't get the foot in the door in the app world, right? Because people just have their cutoffs. It's the same way I met, I would date a lot of women that would, not date, but because I didn't date like a ton of women, but like I'd come across so many women that their age would be 39. And then when you start talking to be like, the first thing they say is, oh, the app won't update. I'm actually 42.
I love that. I love when people say that. Like, I couldn't update my age. I'm like, what?
You think I don't know how to game an algorithm? And it's way harder at the 49 to 50 range. And so like I would, I'd know, because my cutoff was 49 and I was in my mid 40s. And so like looking, I was fine with someone a little older than me, but then there'd be women in their mid 50s that would say they're 49 because of that cutoff. And I'm like, I get it. I mean, I didn't judge them on it per se, because that's a tough place to be. But at the same time, once again, you're starting your relationship off, whatever your relationship is, with a lie.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, Are you really an Olympic pole vaulter? Now I'm wondering,
What else are you lying about?
yeah, what else are you lying about? But yeah, I mean, lying on your apps to beat the algorithm, I don't hold it against you, but it doesn't
But
make
to me,
it
it's like it's
easier.
gonna catch up to you. So if you're,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're short, you're short.
Yeah.
You're not gonna just like grow. But there's that perception too, like you said. Like if someone's like 5'10", 5'11", or 6 feet, that's such a huge difference for women
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm honest about being 5'10 3/4". If I put me in the right shoe, I guess I'm 5'11".
Well, there was a
But
guy with lifts in one of our stories.
no, I mean,
That was one of my favorites.
But I've talked to so many women where that's so important to them that,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing as a woman showing up in a padded bra. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
sure, the minute you're in the bedroom, you hope that by that point, all the blood is in your penis and you don't notice that
You don't
suddenly
notice.
C cup has become a cup.
Mm-hmm.
But I get like trying to get somebody in the door
Yeah.
with a little bit of artificial enhancement. And she like had a height requirement and I was under the height requirement and she still dated me. So it's like, I'm too short. Don't have enough time. And what was the other thing? I don't think I work out enough. Like she wanted someone who worked out every day and I don't work out every day. So she had as she says, she's a visual person.
Yeah.
And, apparently there's a certain standards that we're all trying to reach.
That's a good lesson in like widening your parameters. Because that's something I heard from a dating coach one time was like, if you're looking for these 5 things, maybe like broaden that up a little bit and be open to meeting people outside of that because you never know who you're going to meet. And your situation's the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Mine is not because he hits every check mark.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
so you wanted you wanted someone with a giant beard, 6'1", covered in tattoos?
Yes.
You're like,
wanted-
I want someone
when
who...
I was married, I wasn't allowed to grow a beard. So when I first got separated, I called it like a spite beard.
Now we can't get rid of it.
Now I can't get rid of it. So
Nope.
But that
I
beard
like it.
really suits you. Like I
Yeah.
think
It
the
does.
beard is I'm trying to think of you without the beard, and I'm like, I think
The beard is good. I've seen him without the beard.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Not in
Well,
person,
I'm not allowed
just
to have a
pictures.
beard. I've been told I'm not allowed to have facial hair. I'm allowed a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
There's certain, but that's every relationship I've ever been in. It's like every woman I've ever dated has their own version of you they're trying to squeeze you into, and they put these little rules around, and you're like, you think you follow it and think it doesn't matter, and then you let one slide and they let you know, and you realize, oh no, they meant it. This was not a joke.
We like what we like.
I know.
In the beginning, I had a theory. I was like, the hotter they are, the crazier they are, and it used to hit it to a T. But now
excuse me.
it changed. I know, it changed.
Good.
No, it didn't change. See, this is Max lying. Christina, you're crazy. I'm sorry.
No, I know.
Nobody's
I know.
telling you. But you're
I
insane.
think everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone's crazy, so it's all right.
Yeah.
I think
it's a
I like
level that
people
he can
with
handle.
personality. Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend's a little bit nuts,
Mhm.
and so am
How
I.
boring would it be if I wasn't?
Right.
You'd be like, she doesn't do anything.
No, I mean, you have
Conversation
nothing
should
to
just
talk
be
about.
silent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be the most boring podcast of all time.
Totally, yeah.
Just the clinking of glasses as you drink tea.
Right. So, to get into the single parenting a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I asked a group of people that are all single parents, what is the biggest issue you face when it comes to dating? And almost every single one of them talked about time.
Yeah.
And making the time, or because there are a handful that were primary and they were like, I have my kids all the time. I don't have anyone to take them. It's 24/7, or just like working around schedules, meeting someone, like you said, your girlfriend wants someone who has the same weekends. That's really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like time was the biggest factor. And obviously that's not something I face because my kids are older and don't need to be watched and don't live with me. So like hasn't really been an issue for me. But how did you handle that?
By getting clinically depressed. So it was.
And you're full time. Like I have kids half the time, and I have no time. So I can only imagine.
It's tough. I mean, how did I handle it? Well, it takes a village, and I had to learn how to activate that village. And by all of this comes from, I do not have this problem solved, and I don't think there is an easy way to solve it. I think the things that I've been able to kind of mitigate it the most is planning. Um, and I plan weekends. We're going away this weekend. And so my mom's going to take my son for overnight and we're going up to Boston. And so we plan that. I've already planned the next, we plan one weekend a month where we can do something together. And now this is dating and not, this is like a relationship. And that's, I know, very different, but trying to plan that out has really helped. And we already have our time together planned through the end of the summer. Like that's what I have to do. But because
Max
I
could
have,
not handle that.
but you have to, because I have to, whether it's, I used to have both my parents. My dad passed last year. And so like now it's
Sorry
just
to
my
hear
mom
that.
and thank you. And so she like can only handle so much. And so, I can't rely as much as I used to. Thankfully, my ex's sister will fly in occasionally to kind of stay with my son to give me a little bit of time, which has been really nice. And then I have a babysitter will occasionally come. And I'm like, that's really it. The other thing has been teaching my son to be as self-sufficient as possible has really been a big help. Like just to function as a single parent, because time isn't just about dating. It's just about how do you handle minute to minute your life when you feel like you are the only one in charge of all of this. And Max, I know you got 2 kids and I can't even imagine that. I've got the one, but, he can make his own breakfast now. When I have a late night working and I wake up a little later, he's already showered and dressed and ready to go to school. Like we just taught each other, I've taught him how to be more self-sufficient to give me a little more time. And that's been a huge help. But it's backfired on me occasionally. I think he's too self-sufficient and he gets very jealous of my girlfriend and my time with my girlfriend. And
That's in your
so,
most recent episode. I just finished listening to it.
Oh,
So that was
well,
it was very insightful.
Yeah,
he
gets jealous. He gets, and I was really great because I talked with an old friend of mine, Adam Harrington, about it, and he gave me so much hope about how it gradually got better for him because it's been really hard. And you're like, I think the other thing that's really helpful for me is just talking to other single parents that are at different stages, because you get so caught in this is the only way it is and it's the way it's always going to be, and you're just a rat in a cage. I know that's a strong metaphor, but sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to look into the future and all these other parents are hopefully you in the future. And like talking to my co-host Lily, who has teenagers, she's kind of been through a lot of this. I'm like, okay, I can look into the future now and see that as they get older, they can, do sleepovers. And now I've had my son do sleepovers and I can now have a night because he is sleeping over a friend's house. And building the relationship with those parents so they understand what you need, and that you end up having to be more of a community than maybe is naturally what you would do. And I'm not naturally a joiner, but I've had to be more of a community minded person in order to just pull off life,
definitely.
And it's not easy, and sometimes I feel trapped. And
mine was asking for help.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to doing everything myself. So in the beginning, she would, when she met the kids, she's like, I'll help you. And so that was the toughest thing, is like actually realizing, whoa, this person's going to help me. So what, and I, in the back of my mind, it's like, so what does she want? No, she doesn't want anything. She wants to help you
I want
to
something.
make your life easier.
She does want something. She wants you to like her.
Yeah.
But still.
But yeah, it's like asking for help, and you don't realize just like small stuff. And like, wait, and that's really helped,
I mean, it's the truth, because like my ex was in the military, so I wasn't a single parent. I don't want to take credit for that, but I was by myself for 8 months at a time. I mean, and I lived in an area with no family, and so like it was really hard. God. And so I learned you have to, like you said, you have to build a community. So there were other military spouses that could help me out, and we were all supporting each other because we're all we had. We didn't have our families nearby.
And you are in a lot of ways a single parent in that situation. I mean, I don't think you need to equivocate it at all. Like you, in a way, in those situations, you're more of a single parent than I am, because it's recognized that I need help, and it's not, whereas you're like, well, I've got a husband, he's just not here.
Right.
And that sometimes can, wall you off a little bit. But It's so hard to ask for. It's hardest. I think it's a little harder for guys because we like to be these sort of monolithic. We can do everything, and we don't like to show
Yeah,
weakness.
weakness.
And
Don't show any weakness.
we're
Yeah.
all taught that. And reaching out and asking for help, and especially I find the hardest is reaching out to the parents of my son's friends, because that's the bit where it's like, what are they going to think? Is it going to like,
Hmm.
because you don't have as much in common with those people, right? It's your kids are friends, doesn't mean you guys have anything
Right.
really in
Yeah.
common. And so it's kind of hard to find your people amongst those people. But when you do, you got to jump on it, because they can
Mm-hmm.
actually be the most help for you, because they
Oh,
like that their
absolutely.
kids are friends. And, it's not just you that they're helping their kids' relationship. And so those are the people that have helped me the most. Yeah, it's hard to admit that you need help.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
glad you
will
guys are part of a
say,
group, like
yeah,
the
it's
Facebook group and
helpful.
everything. That's great.
It's also hilarious.
Well, yeah,
But, like,
we're on it just because the people are just so
yeah.
thirsty. I mean, you think people, these are some of the most thirsty people. Oh my God. It is insane. And just the stories, and then people get in trouble for certain like pictures. And then when they start dating each other in the group, and then they
So
break
much
Ooh.
up,
drama.
and then just, oh, I just like, on an
But we just
everyday
sit there and
basis.
watch our
Yeah.
popcorn.
I
And they're
know
like,
it sounds like the greatest reality
what are we
show.
going to talk about on this podcast? And we just look on that, like, oh, yep, we got a few things.
What
Yeah.
kind of, it's a single parent
Single
dating?
parents. Well, it's
I
not
got,
really dating, but everyone's single.
but it's
So
single
kind of like,
parents. It's not single mom or single dad. It's
no,
single
it's single
parents.
parents. It's like a
See,
social
that's what
group.
I gotta find out. I gotta
Yeah.
find that,
Oh,
because I
there's a
see a
lot
lot
of
of
them.
single mom and single dad groups are tough, because there are a lot of really just depressed, angry people
Right.
on single dad groups, because it's a lot of custody issues and it's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
anger. And I try to help and be there and be supportive, but it's a drain. I just want horny single parent group. That sounds hilarious.
Well, that's what. Yeah, there's some like uncensored ones, and they're just it's just crazy. It's great though. It's craziness.
It's
And
people
it's
who
like
got in trouble in the normal group and created
they,
their
they
own
create
group
yeah.
that was uncensored. And so yeah, it's hysterical. It's so much fun to be
And you're
in.
like, this is like I'm in a great relationship with her, and I'm like, and sometimes you're like, God, I'm like, this is the shit that I don't miss. Like
Yeah.
just the constant like every day. Yeah. So, but some of them are really good. I liked what I think you talked about in your episode. You know, the app that is kind of off limits, that women talk to each other on who they're dating, and
Oh yeah.
she's on that, and
Oh, the group on
I
Facebook.
know
yeah.
there's a bunch of them, but yeah,
Yeah.
and I got, that's one that my, oh, actually I can't talk about that. Never mind. I'll get in trouble. Cause these are like fight clubs, right?
Mhm.
Like, you don't talk about Fight Club, and, I got in trouble for mentioning it from my friend who told me about it. And they're like, you're not supposed to talk about
Yeah, you
Fight
can't
Club.
talk about it. So
And,
this is my perspective on it, though. I was listening to that episode when you were talking about that, and for me, if it's someone who had a bad date with someone and it was very like situational, and it might have just been how he was reacting to her or whatever, I don't put too much into that. It's more
Okay.
of a safety thing. So if someone's
Yeah.
like, this guy is abusive, this guy is dangerous, that's what you look for. But if it's like, this guy hurt my feelings, I'm like, well, I mean, I've hurt people's feelings, So it's like that you have to take with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But it's really
I-
more for like of a safety thing.
and I get the safety thing completely.
Or if he's dating 5 or 6 other people.
Oh yeah, like someone's like, is anyone seeing this guy? Like, I am. Oh, me too. It's like, oh damn,
See, that just seems
you just
fun.
got caught.
That just seems like, I know. I think there was just part of me that just like reacted to the idea that I don't like it when people are talking about me behind my back, and to think that there could be an entire Facebook group of my exes talking about me behind my back. And that's not what it is, but like, I can't even imagine what my exes would say if they were to get together. Like,
I was thinking, yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't, yeah, that's crazy. It's
I mean, think
because
about that.
you might think like you left it okay, but she might have a completely different opinion. And if she's on that, she's probably gonna blast you like, oh, he's a piece of shit. And you just never know.
See, I'm worried about like things that are supposed to be like between people. Like,
Right.
it's like, oh, he has a weird sex doll he brings out. I don't, but I'm saying if there was something like that,
It would have been the
weird
second date
things.
with the bondage one, right?
Yeah, bondage lady. Like, I would never talk about bondage lady. Like if somebody said, hey, do you know bondage lady? I wouldn't be like, oh, watch out for bondage lady. Either
Right.
that or,
Oh,
Just
because
watch it.
that's like I said, it's a situational thing. If
Yeah.
it's not something that's about her, that's like, guys, watch out. It's like that's just what happened with you, and it wasn't for you. But like when it comes to like
Oh, safety.
safety,
100%.
that's what I'm looking
100%.
for. I want people, or someone who's dating who's married. There's a lot of those. Because it's like, oh, good to know.
I mean, how it's so hard to, I mean, I love my girlfriend, but even if I did it, I'd probably hold on for clear life, like for dear
Yeah.
life. It's like it's just so harsh. Like you think people and human nature, your friends, your family, and you just think people, and then you go out into this and you meet people that you normally would never meet, and so you get exposed to people that you would normally, there's no real reference here. Like nobody's like, hey, this person is a good person, or this person's fun, or whatever. It's totally random, and you just meet weird people, and you're
Yes, you
like,
do.
the world is filled with weird people. Like, how weird are all these people? And then it makes our politics make a lot more sense to me, and makes everything, I'm like, oh no, there's just weird people out there
Yeah.
that think and act so differently than me. I can't even, and I don't know it. It's like, I don't know it until I'm on the date. And then suddenly, I am talking about just weird stuff, or like they're admitting weird things, or they're touching weird places, or whatever it is. It's a shock. It's hard to, I think the real reason it's hard to stay hopeful, and I realize how disingenuous it is as a guy, everything that I'm saying goes like 100 times worse, I think, for women meeting guys on these apps, because of the safety and the danger piece of it. But like, it's hard to be hopeful. Like, it can just beat down on not just hope in dating, but just hope in people. It can like,
Oh yeah,
really affect the
definitely.
way you look at
Just
people.
how people, like, I mean, like you said, the way people behave, it's just like, Jesus. Like, I'm just like, and that's why one of my things is like, if you're texting someone, I would try to get them on the phone right away, just see if they can hold a conversation. Because if I'm carrying the conversation, it's like, it's over. And the funny thing is, we when we matched, when we met each other in Match, and I just did it because I was bored on a Saturday night. I was like, I'll just join Match real quick, and we probably texted like maybe 5 minutes, and we got on the phone, and we ended up talking for like 7 to 8 hours that night. Like,
I remember those first full few conversations, and now it's like 10
going.
minutes
I'm
in,
like,
you're like, gotta go.
And then we're like, what did we talk about? Like, I don't remember.
We don't know.
Yeah.
What do I was trying to remember, I had like 4-hour, 5-hour conversations with people that I ended up not even really dating afterwards. And I'm like, what the hell do you talk about? I don't remember.
Just like a vet
I just
session.
think you're like, so like, oh my God, I'm talking to another, especially like parenting.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Sometimes just having that adult time, and it's like being at work is different because you can't, and then being at home with the kids. And sometimes when you just go out and you meet another adult, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can have like an adult conversation. It's like,
and be yourself and not worried you're going to get
Right.
fired for it. Or like, or like you can say all that, like friends. It's friend relationships, which are harder to have when you're a single parent, because you just don't have the time for them or the bandwidth for
Right.
it. And it's just, I find it hard to keep my
They even
friendships
talk about it's
going.
harder to make friends when you get older, and it's like, I don't want it. Like, I really don't want any more friends. Like, not to be like a prude, but it's like sometimes it's like, yeah, where how am I going to fit you into my life now? I can barely.
Yeah.
I'll teach
You're
you.
like, if there's no sex involved, I'm not interested.
Right.
No new people without booty.
So
That
what's
is
the
just the way it
advantage?
is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate your
It was
time.
fun.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Love your show. So
Oh, well, thank you guys for
Yeah.
having me. You were really fun to talk. You have a great dynamic. This is really fun.
thanks. Thanks so
I'm
much.
rooting for you, crazy kids.
Yeah, we try not to fuck it up.
Yeah.
What an amazing conversation with Scott. I felt like we could have talked forever.
Oh, I know. There is so much
Yeah.
more I wanted to talk about because I've listened to so many of his episodes. I was like, I want to talk about this and this and this, but we
Yeah.
only had so much time.
It was great talking to him because kind of they're doing a similar thing, a little bit more different topics, more like parenting, but they still talk about the dating.
Yeah.
We're like, and that's the thing. We're primarily dating, but we also want to kind of open other avenues with
Well, yeah, because
parenting.
just like his co-host doesn't really talk about dating that much. I really don't have as much to talk about when it comes to single parent stuff because I wasn't a single parent. Like I was married the whole time my kids were actual kids.
But like you said, you were probably yeah.
Because I will say my ex was deployed back to back 3 years, 3 deployments. So we was gone 8 months, home for a few months, gone 7 months, home for a few months, gone 8 months again, like 3 years in a row. So yeah, there's some, it feels like a single parent at sometimes, but I still had, financially, I was married. I was, had the support and all that stuff from a spouse that, you don't have when you're a single parent. So there's differences there where, you know,
And he's a full time dad. I mean, he doesn't get a break.
yeah,
So
that's hard. I know a
yeah,
few people like that. I actually know a few dads like that. Like I've met a few dads that are full-time dads, and I'm like, that's interesting, because you don't usually see that with a dad.
but yeah, when you talked about the village, because that's something with me is like, I have family and friends, but like right now, my mom can't really take care of the kids anymore because some of her health issues. So
Hmm.
that's kind of taken it away. So, but like I
I think
said,
you have a bigger village than you know. I think you just don't like to ask for help.
right, right. If I ask my cousin,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I've asked her before, and when I was in a pinch for something, yeah. Like if I asked my ex mother in law, she would definitely do it. I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
she does it. Or I just ask my ex wife, and be like, hey, can I drop them off early? I mean, that stuff helps. It's just like when the kids are sick or there's days off. In the past, I could work around it. Now I actually have to take those days off. So
Yeah.
now I don't have as much vacation. So
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's
but
only for
it,
a little bit longer. And the one thing I wanted to say, that I didn't end up saying, to Scott too, was like it feels like you're stuck, and it's like you're in this like endless loop, but it's not forever, and it actually goes by so much faster than you think it's going to.
yeah, my
Like
kids are
you
already in middle school.
blink,
That's
yeah, you
crazy.
blink and you're like, it's such a like a thing that people say all the time is like you blink and they grow up, but they do.
Yeah,
Like it's not a joke. It goes by so, it feels slow in the moment, but then you think about it and you're like, wow, they were just babies, like, and now they're in middle school, and now mine are adults and having kids of their own, and like it happens so fast. Like it literally feels like my kids were toddlers yesterday, and they're in their 20s now. So like it's hard, especially like I went through it with when my ex was deployed. It's hard when you're in the day to day and you're just trying to survive, but in the long run, it's such a small part of your life, and it goes by a lot faster than you
yeah,
realize. So yeah.
yeah. It was good. I just yeah. Like I said, I listened to a few episodes and I liked it. Like the parenting fail of the week. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome because like I mean I can pick so many. So
Like, what would your fail be for this week? I don't know that you failed at anything.
just get maybe getting all the homework done or getting the kids somewhere on time. I don't fail a lot, but it's just like some of the stuff like yeah, maybe you don't realize you do a fail and then you hear
Yeah.
someone else. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the thing that's a little bit different about you than with what you would consider like the average dad is like you do so much. You are, and that's like one of the things I was so impressed with when I first met you is like how hands-on you are with your kids, and like how into like the little things, and it's, you don't always see that. Even in guys who are great dads, they're still not involved at the level that you're involved at. And so it's just like that
I
was
don't
an
know
extremely
anything.
attractive thing to me when I met you, because I've never met anyone
I
as
don't know. I
involved.
don't know any other way.
Yeah.
I had such a good relationship with my mom,
Mhm.
and she made it so like if I ever needed anything, I wasn't afraid to go to her, and I kind of want that because it helps so much. Like if I
Oh
needed
yeah.
something, or I mean, I was like drunk at a party and I knew I can call her, she'd come pick me up, no
Mhm.
questions asked, and boom. And I want that with my kids, and I know like life just is crazy now with everything, and I want them to have an avenue, and I want them to have it with their mom too. But
Mhm.
like personally with me, like I just want them like I want them to be able to come to me for anything.
Right.
I guess I went full throttle with parenting because I'm like I want to be involved in their life every which way. I don't want to be like, "Oh, yeah, my dad was good, but he never did this or never did this." So,
Mhm.
I mean, I try to go to every event I can. And like I said, but like when with me and my ex-wife, like Sunday night to Wednesday morning, like I not to be mean, but like I don't want her involved with any of it. It's my time.
Yeah.
And then when she has
That's
them,
that's
she can do it.
amazing. Yeah.
So
But it is. It's impressive to see how much you do and how much you care and what you put into your kids. And I'm telling you, it's like one of the things I love most about you. It's one of the most attractive things. I was like, there's nothing hotter than a good dad. That is the most attractive thing ever.
Yeah, because and dads, people just expect like bare minimum out of dads. Because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how it is, and you see it a lot too. Like I used to go to birthday parties, and all the dads would be in the corner, not fucking paying attention to any of their kids. I'm like your kid's being an asshole. Fucking take him out of the, you know, out of the foam pit. I want my kids to trust me. Like,
Yeah.
and you have to put your foot down. Like, be like, dude. Like sometimes I tell my son because I'm like, what did I just say? Go and brush your teeth, or do
Mm-hmm.
this, or do this, and I
Well,
just
the thing with you that I've noticed is like you do have rules. You're not. This isn't like you can do whatever you want whenever you want here. When it's half an hour before bedtime and you want them to put screens down so they can start decompressing, like you have structure and you have rules, and it's just like you communicate them.
I don't talk
They're not
down to
like
them.
orders. It's just like,
Yeah.
hey, go brush your teeth. Oh,
Like
okay.
like I always tell people at work, like just treat me with respect. Like I
Yeah.
don't mind. Like you can at work, I always say you can yell and scream at me, but just don't talk down to me. So when you
Right.
talk down to me, then that's like, dude, what are you doing? And every parent's different, and
Yeah.
you go with what works. If you want to do strict, go strict. If you want to go, I try to do the in between. I try to treat them with respect. I mean, obviously
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, but you still have to understand like you're still the parent and they're your kids.
You have boundaries and rules and stuff, but you also have like a kind of like a boss with an open door policy where you're like, talk to me, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've noticed too that you do is like you'll talk to them about the grades or homework or something, and you're like, you're not in trouble. Like you start out with that, and you also, I don't know if you know that you do this, and or if you do it intentionally, you get down to their level because you are very tall, and so you sit down a lot of times and you talk to them, so you're not hovering over. Do you do that on purpose?
I probably do because I used to have a boss that would always stand on a skid to be taller than me. Then I'd stand on one. Yeah.
So it's a
Probably
thing.
not just so we can go eye to eye.
Yeah,
Be
it's a
like,
thing.
listen, motherfucker.
That's a
Raise that
thing.
math grade. Raise that fucking math grade.
That's a parenting thing though. Like if you're trying to talk to your kid to get down eye level with them, because when you're over them, they're they feel attacked. They don't listen because they're feeling attacked rather than having a conversation with you. And so they're like, I'm in trouble, I'm in trouble. Or if you get eye to eye with them, they're like, oh, he's trying to talk to me.
But yeah, I try. I mean, and then sometimes you just have like you just sometimes want to be so lazy. Be like, just go to bed and yeah. So
That's okay too though. It's okay to be like, I've reached my capacity for the
yeah,
day. Go do what you're gonna do and just don't set the house on fire. That's
right.
okay too, because like I'm telling you, from someone who was in it by myself, like truly by myself, without family to help me out or anything like that. Um, there were times when I was in survival mode, and I'm like, you had to think. And a parent told me this one time: Are your kids' basic needs being met? Do they have food, shelter? Are they loved? If those are all being met, then you're doing what you need to do.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's bare minimum just to survive. Sometimes it's, you know, frozen chicken nuggets and like watch TV until you fall asleep because I just can't. I can't. I'm done. And it's okay to recognize that and be like, I've reached my capacity, so we're just going to get by for the day and
yeah,
try our best, you know? And I
yep.
think it's good for them to see that too, to be like, I'm human. I can't be perfect all the time. Let's wrap this up because we're tired.
I want to do my little jam, right? There's a meme or a TikTok going around every time the Pistons win. There's like a Pistons rap song. It's like, yo, the Pistons won again. So I'm really
I don't know
excited.
this.
The Pistons, they won again. It's nice because Detroit sports was down. This is what Chicago's going through now. So Detroit sports was a shithole for like 10 years. I mean, probably for my whole life. With the Lions winning, the Tigers made the playoffs last year. The Pistons were terrible last year. I thought they'd be better, but now they're fucking winning. The Wings are winning. It's just like holy shit, everything's coming together. No one's winning a championship, but that's asking too much. And then Michigan basketball is doing well, and then Michigan football is gonna be back. It's like it's all coming together.
That counts as sports corner.
Yeah, that would be the sports corner. Detroit sports is back. Fuck yeah.
Woo! Okay, well, we will be back next week.
Don't forget, wrestling fans, Elimination Chamber this weekend,
It's
live from
not. This is
Toronto.
gonna air after that.
I know, but
But anyway,
I
please,
can't believe what happened.
if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. And if you follow us on any of our audio platforms, follow the page and keep listening to us, please. But please rate us, leave us reviews if you can, but definitely subscribe or follow us. It helps us a ton. And also check out our social media, because my social media game has gone up a notch, I think. So follow us on Instagram at No Dick Pics Pod, everywhere else at No Dick Pics Pod. We're on Facebook, we're on TikTok. Again, we're on X, but I don't think I've posted on X
Your
in
social
months.
media takes it to a whole nother level. Remember that Key and Peele?
Yeah.
Where it was like a whole nother level.
Toss. I was asked how often I do that, and I said, I don't know. It's become my entire personality. I don't care. Anyway,
Just go with it.
yeah. Embrace it. It's who I am. Okay. We're done. So we'll be back next week. Bye. Say bye.
Bye. For those of you that don't speak Espanol, El Niño in Spanish means the Niño.
Okay, bye.